All right, moving on to lesson 2.2, let's take a look at our harvest area and equipment. So as I talked about before, we've got our production system split up into these different areas. We were just looking at where production takes place. But once you've produced your crop, you need to harvest it, package it, store it, and get it ready for shipping. So that's going to generally happen in a different space. At the Food Peddlers, as I mentioned, our growing space was a 40-foot shipping container converted into a greenhouse, along with the covered benches we could use. And we actually used another 20-foot shipping container to be our harvest space. And this is because we were on leased land in an urban environment, and so we didn't really have any building options. So this was a really good way for us to use mobile infrastructure, which could be moved or sold easily if we had to move the site. So we're going to take a look at this in more detail, but the general idea here is it's a very flow-based system where the crop is going to start here. It's going to work through into basically through this production system of washing, cutting, washing, draining, spinning. It's going to go into the storage space here, either the fridges or the coolers for delivery. And within here we've got other things like shelving for our equipment. Here's the seed sanitizing stuff up here, and then we've got some wash-up space as well. So let's take a little look at things here. So here's a setup of our system here. It hasn't really changed actually in about 8 years. We generally cut a tray. If it needs washing, it goes into a primary bath, then a secondary bath, at which point here with the sunflower we can pick the hulls off. Then it goes into a drainage bin here. Here's some of the supplies we'll look at that we use for doing this part of the process. After that, it's going to go into a spinning mechanism. So this is going to help remove the water from those products and generally help them store a little better. And then from there, it's going to go on to being weighed and packaged and ready to get shipped out. And right away, so our goal is to get stuff cut, washed, dried, packaged, and into a cooler space as quickly as possible. As soon as it's in a sealed package, you've really reduced the risk of contamination. And B, like keeping things cold are really going to extend the storage life. And that's a big selling feature for clients. So the process is very intentional to get it packaged and stored as quickly as possible. We had a similar outdoor system which sort of flowed in one direction. And in this case, we're actually going to cut the peas and put them directly into the spinner. There's no reason to put them in the water bath like the sunflower there. So yeah, just another quick look here, like after looking at that, just getting a sense of, yeah, we're going to flow through the system, and then stuff's going to leave the system to go out for deliveries. We only have a little bit of storage space, so we're trying not to hold on to product too much. We actually want our clients to be storing it either in their home fridge or in their commercial fridge at a restaurant or a grocer. That's where the best storage is going to take place. So here's a look at, basically, this is our toolkit right here for harvesting. So we do a majority of the harvesting with a very sharp knife that gives you a much cleaner cut and really improves the storability of crops. The scissors are used for some of the finer crops that are really hard to get into with the knife. We use the little strainers there and the bigger strainers for picking hulls and picking debris out of our wash water to keep it as clean as possible. And we use those wire racks there, which are kind of like cooling racks, so when we have say sunflower in the water, we can push the sprouts down and the hulls will float and we can pick those off. We've got a couple clamps for holding things down. And then here, actually, a very important thing is we do a lot of sharpening of our knives. These knives get sharpened and honed consistently because if you don't have a good clean cut on your crop, it's not going to store very well. So that's a very important piece, is really having a nice sharp knife. So yeah, we spend a lot of time sharpening knives in this production system. So yeah, let's just take a look at some of the stuff we're looking at in terms of equipment here. So one is you need a bench or some sort of space, and we actually use the same epoxy-coated wire bench for harvest as we do for production. It's turned out to work really well, and you don't get buildup of water or debris on it. It's easy to keep clean. You need different totes and bins for your water and your drainage. You need a spinner for spinning your microgreens dry when they've gotten wet. We use a scale for measuring things, of course, to get their weight. Fridges and coolers to store stuff, keep it cold, both for storing longer term and for transport. We use lots of different totes and shelves for storing our equipment, and we always keep everything covered so there's no like water getting into it or anything like that. You do need a water source, and you do need a water heater. You need warm and hot water for both hand washing and for cleaning and sanitizing your equipment. You want to have really good lighting in your space. You're going to need bags and labels. That's going to be a big part of your system. Cleaning supplies, just like you need them in the greenhouse area or your growing area. You might need some heat. And I highly recommend music. We always had music playing or a podcast going. In our space, it's a very tight space, so it ends up being very social. So we wanted to find ways to make it very comfortable, because realistically, the greenhouse is nice and all that the other stuff is nice to have, but you spend most of your time actually harvesting and packing. That's where a bulk of the work you do is going to go.